What if the root of driving client satisfaction is born out of what a team member eats for breakfast every day? What if cost efficiencies are found in first having a difficult conversation between a team member and his daughter? What if enterprise value is driven by a sales manager having a date night once a week with her husband? What if employee retention is a result of a plan for a team member to go to church once a week? What if profit is driven by the number of workouts an employee gets every week? What if employee well-being was the single biggest driver of your company's success? What if the formula for business success isn't driven by numbers and instead rests upon joy? There's a definition of joy which holds that joy occurs when there's a presence of success and well-being. Joy equals success and well-being. And what if this formula can unlock not only human potential, but the productivity and profit potential of your organization? Over the past 5 years, we have seen how this formula can push both human development and business results to a whole new level. To understand how the formula works, let's go back and see how it came to us. As an entrepreneur, I started my business 22 years ago, and I didn't start it because I was trying to help people. I started it because I wanted to prove that I could do it. I started it because I needed to show the world that I was that guy, the guy that could build a national company, the guy that could, be in the newspapers and be the guy who could do something that hadn't been done before. I wanted to prove to myself and the rest of the world that the stupid kid who couldn't read in 3rd grade was actually pretty smart after all. I wanted all of these things so that I could feed my ego. Then I met this man, Brother David Steindl-Rast. Brother David has committed his life to spreading the practice of gratitude. Happiness, he asserts, is fleeting. Pursue happiness and one will always come up short because it is event-driven. While gratitude is always available. One can always find gratitude in any moment. Moved by this practice of gratitude, I started to let go of some of my, probably not all of them, but some of my ego-driven desires to build a giant company and to be that guy. And instead, I started to become present and immensely grateful. And when I looked around, what I was grateful for within my company was my team, all of these hard-working folks. I remember thinking, man, I don't care about growing a national company. I just want to see these people thrive. And this was the start of my journey towards the joy formula. It was born out of a desire to create a company that could help as many people as possible reach their maximum potential. Today, the joy formula has helped us crack the code of human development and business success. The formula combines purpose, goal setting, structure, and accountability to help people have breakthrough results that otherwise would not have been possible. On the wellness side, we have seen marriages improve and families come closer together. We've celebrated as the team has lost weight. We've celebrated as they have put in practice micro habits that improve their lives. We've seen the confidence grow as people put in place and found victories, these small victories in improving their life. And then on the success side, we've seen all sorts of the kind of results that you want to see in a business. We've seen our retention go up, poor performers become top performers. Simply put, the company metrics holistically have improved and profitability is way up. Here's how the Joy formula works. All right, so first of all, it requires a framework of love. What is a framework of love? Well, if you don't care about people, if you don't care about your team, then this simply will not work. It doesn't work if you're trying it and you're just faking it. You have to genuinely care about growing and developing human beings, and holistically growing and developing human beings. So we start, so with that as like the general framework, cultural framework, if that is present, then what you do is you bring somebody into the organization and you start with their purpose, their reason for being on this planet. And we take them through this purpose exercise, and they develop their purpose. And moving forward in all of the different points, the structure points that we touch base with people, the purpose comes first. And what we found is that an individual's purpose always connects with the company purpose. We've never seen a situation where an individual's purpose, where they can't find a connection to the company purpose. And that's what makes them feel that they've found the right home, that they're in the right place. And their purpose then allows them to have a base, a foundation, to be able to do all of the goal setting and all of the work that we're going to ask them to do moving forward. Now, for goal setting, you'll see that we have two sides of this, what we call our Joy scorecard. Now, a lot of people will be familiar with a scorecard where you go through and you align everybody's number one in the organization with the company's number one, and that is where we started. We've been doing that for years, but with the Joy formula, we take the success side, that traditional scorecard side, and in front of it, we put this well-being scorecard. And on the well-being side, we have a framework, which is the 5 F's. And this framework allows an individual to go through and grade themselves on a scale of 1 to 10, how they are doing in these different areas of their well-being. There's also a template that they can pull different areas. Everybody, not everybody is going to resonate with all elements of the 5 F's, and so we encourage people to create their own well-being scorecard. And on a monthly basis, we'll sit down with an individual and go over their first, starting with their well-being. And what we end up doing and finding is that we'll end up putting 75% of a meeting into the well-being side, because we have found that when somebody is solid and they're set and they're feeling accomplished in their well-being, their success comes so much easier and so much more naturally. And also, the habits that they build, the tenacity, the discipline that comes from mastering their well-being side translates directly into the success side. We did not start with that. We started with the well-being because we really wanted to just simply help people move their lives forward. But then we had this beautiful unintended consequence that as they move their well-being side forward, their success side moves forward along with it. So the structure then is set. You see at the very top you have purpose, you have monthly goals. We start on the well-being side and then over to the success side. Then from there, we have our monthly check-ins, and then we also do a weekly head check. And our weekly head check, this seems like a lot of meetings, but in reality it's a 5 or a 10-minute head check with everybody on your team. And I look at it like, would you go to a gym and hire a trainer if he was going to be there for you once a month? What would happen during that month? Well, maybe in the first week you'd take the plan and you'd really work hard with it, but by the end of the month you're going to be falling off. What the weekly check-in does is it creates a level of structure to keep the goals that were set in the monthly alive. So the weekly is a critical piece of this, the weekly head check. And then finally, these scorecards are taken into accountability groups. Everybody in the organization is in an accountability group. It's a peer accountability group made of 5 to 7 to 8 members. And you take your scorecard into this peer accountability group and you say, all right, this is what I'm up to. Here's what my commitment is for this week. Here's what I'm going to accomplish this week. And then the following week, you go in and you say, here's what I did accomplish, here's what I didn't accomplish. And there's something magical that happens when there's a peer group and you have that level of accountability. Nobody's saying, hey, you need to do this to other people in the accountability group. It is a self-driven accountability where nobody wants to show up and say, oh yeah, I didn't do that again. And so what happens is this peer accountability group creates the glue to make sure that the habits that the individual is trying to put into place stick. Now, what happens if the wheels come off? In a traditional organization, everybody's heard of a PIP, a Performance Improvement Plan, which essentially is a notice that you're about to be fired. Okay? A traditional organization says, hey, you have to produce X, Y, and Z results by this time or you're going to be fired. That creates a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety, and nobody operates well under those conditions. In our organization, we have come up with what we call our HIP, a Habit Improvement Plan. And our HIP works very differently than a performance improvement plan because we're focused on what are the micro habits, what are the small things that you can do every day that will ultimately have an impact on the score that we're trying to move. Focusing on the scoreboard is nothing but frustrating. But when you focus on the things that you know you can control, and you can control your habits, what you do every day, and furthermore, when you're looking at both sides of the joy formula, where you're looking at the success and the well-being side, what you can do is you can identify habits that will impact on both sides. So you have your habits in your well-being side. It might be that, hey, when I work out every day, I have a much clearer head. And so that becomes part of a HIP. It might be that I need to get training in this, in this area, or I need to spend time with this individual, and that becomes part of the HIP. And then the HIP is then the framework around that. There's a check-in on that, and the two people decide what that looks like. It could be once a day, it could be a text message, but there's a much higher level of structure that's put into that HIP. Our HIPs are so effective that largely when people go on HIPs, it improves their performance to such a degree that they go off of the HIP and they're just back on the team and they're hitting the numbers that they need to hit. We also have seen people voluntarily say, hey, I'd like to be put on a HIP. I need to make movement in this area. Sometimes they'll do it in their personal, on their well-being side, and sometimes they'll do it on the success side. So that is the kind of the details and the structure of our joy formula. We have found that you can't develop half a person. You can't just develop the success side. You have to take a look at the well-being side. If you ignore the well-being side of the equation and focus solely on the success, you miss the opportunity to fundamentally move that person forward by looking at what actually drives that person forward. The joy formula holistically grows people by focusing on purpose and values and then introducing structure to help implement new keystone habits that fundamentally allow people to create their own destiny. It empowers people with the ability to make change for good in their lives. Thank you very much.